Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today we're gonna make this cute underbust corset. Please stay tuned as we begin. In making this underbust corset, we're gonna start with the first thing, which is the shoulder line. I usually call it my baseline, and that's what I'm drawing right now on your screen. Then from there, we're gonna go ahead to get our horizontal measurements using the baseline as a reference. So from the shoulder line, I'm gonna come down by 10 inches, which is my bust point, and from that 10 inches I go up by 2 inches, which will be my chest line. And when I'm done with that, I'm going to mark my under bust, which is 12.5 inches, and draw a straight line across as you're seeing visible on your screen. And then I'm going to get my half length, which is 15.5 inches, and draw a straight line across that point. And then finally I'm going to get the corset length, which I'm taking to be 5 inches from the waistline as you're seeing me marking on your screen. So I'm going to draw that straight line, and when I'm done with that, I'm done marking my horizontal measurements. Then I'm going to go ahead to the shoulder line and get my shoulder slope by marking my shoulders into 2 and coming down by 1 inch, and then I connect it to the neckline which I've drawn, and then I draw that same straight line from my shoulder slope to meet the chest line. And I used marker to highlight the point so you guys can see what I'm doing. So the next thing now is to get our armhole. So I'm going to take my tape and measure my bust by 4 and mark it, and then on the straight line I'll divide it into 2 equal halves, mark that point, and then come in by half an inch. Then what I'm going to do is use my French curve, connect those 3 points together as you're seeing me doing on your screen. So I place my French curved and I used my marker to draw out the armhole as you're seeing visible on your screen. So after doing that, next thing I did was go ahead to label the lines, which is from the chest, the bust point, the under bust, the waistline, and then the full length of the corset. Then next thing to do is to take in our darts, starting from the chest line. So my nipple to nipple measurement is 7, so dividing that by 2 I'll have 3.5. So when I had to mark it from my chest line way down to the corset length and connect the line as you're seeing. So on the waistline, I started taking my dart, ½ inch on both sides, and connect it straight to the bust point as you see me doing on your screen. And do the same thing from the length of the corset down to, up to my waistline. So I drew it as you're seeing visible on your screen. So after doing all that, the next thing I begin to take in is the marking for the corset. So I'm going to go straight to the under bust line, and from the one going to the side I'm going to take in 1 inch, and then from the one coming to the center front I'll come in by ½ of an inch. So I did that on the under bust line and still same thing on the full length of the corset. So I'm going to connect those 2 lines together as you're seeing me doing on my screen or on your screen regardless. Then what I'm going to do next is to take in my body measurements. That is, I'm going to go straight to my under bust. You take your horizontal, is it horizontal? Yeah, horizontal measurement of my under bust, and I marked that. So now this mistake I did was to add allowance. Please, in case you're doing yours, do not add allowance to the corset, because I mean it's to snatch your waist. So what's the point of an allowance? Just leave it like that. When you're cutting it on your fabric, you'll be able to like add the allowance you so wish. Next thing is I'm gonna take my measurements from my upper hip, that's where the corset will stop, replace the dart there, and do the same thing for my under bust. So you measure the circumference of your under bust and your upper hip where your corset is to stop, and you connect a straight line as you're seeing. Then the next thing is to play with the shape of the corset. Now I just went for a basic look, but if you are feeling creative, you can do something else. Make the shape of your corset to be great. It can be crazy depending on how you're feeling. Now the important part is to always make sure that the sides are equal. That's when you're making the front and the back. So this is me just making a basic shape for the corset, like the one you're seeing in the picture before we started the drafting. So after doing all that, I'm going to go ahead now to cut this piece out. Please pay attention to the places I'm cutting, because I'm not going to shred it into pieces yet, because I want to use this front pattern to draft the back pattern. So after cutting it out, I went ahead to place this piece on a different pattern paper where I'm going to trace out the back piece. Now what I did was to arrange the underbust line, the waistline, and the full length of the corset so that the front and the back would lap. Then after doing that, I use my marker to trace out the edges. Please always note that the edge of this corset should be the same for both the front and the back. The other sides you can play with it, no problem. So after doing that, I removed the pin as you see me doing, and then I would use my French curve to make the shape anyhow I feel like, as I said. So the next thing I skipped out from this video was to make the dart. So you do the same thing like the way you make the normal dart of your front corset. I'm sorry I skipped that out. Just make a normal dart and then shape your corset anyhow you want to. The important thing is make sure the sides of the front and the back piece are the same. So that's what I did in this pattern drafting. Then I'll go ahead to out. I went ahead to align the front and the back piece together, making sure that the edges are the same. Then once you achieve that, next thing is to take in more darts to get our waist more snatched. Then I'm going to start from the front piece. So by the side of this corset, I decided to divide that part you see me doing right now into 2 equal halves. And then from the waistline, I went in by 1/2 inch on both sides, get another dart so that the waist of this corset, so that our waist will be more snatched. So when I did that, I used my marker to highlight it so that you guys can see it visibly. And then I marked the point where I'm going to cut out. So I'll do the same thing for the back piece again. I'm going to divide the side into 2 equal halves, and then from the waistline I'll take in 1/2 inch on both sides and then connect it to the beginning and the the end of the corset. So after doing all that, next thing we're going to do now is to label. Please, if you're making this corset, it is very important that you label, because almost, let me say the Nigerian term, I saw shaggy when I was because this is the first time I'm doing this. So I saw shaggy when making the front piece. So please make sure you label and put arrows. You can even label way down to the fabric, it will help. Label, put arrows so that you know where you're supposed to join this and join that, and to save you less time of thinking and going back to the pattern. So this is me cutting out the front piece. After labeling it, I'll keep it aside and do the same thing for the back piece. I'm gonna cut out it's funny because I can still remember relabeling and labeling. Anyways, I'll do the same thing for the back piece. Cut out all the dots and arrange them. So if you're still watching at this point, I'm so grateful. Thank you, and I really hope you found this tutorial very helpful. And if you're yet to subscribe, please just hit on the subscribe button, like, to encourage me, and we're gonna do the sewing of this Under-Burst Corset in my next tutorial. So thank you, and see you guys next week. Bye.